TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. 6 on the nose and you bang on time for AM Live. I trust you slept easy, woken up well, and you're ready to face this good day that the good Lord has afforded us. And of course, you can see our guests are still walking in. We had Dr. Sele Simiu, who today actually beat Aaron Cherio to the punch.
That's the third time.
It's the third time today. So this morning we'll be also waiting for the person who will be late. Yeah. We have now to enact some of our policies that we set up here, yeah? Our regulations, they'll actually nil. So if it's Wamatangi or Jacobidio or Otieno Molo, yes, they'll have actually, they'll have to kneel down here today. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, so we'll speak to you because you're not mic'd there, but we'll speak to Dr. Eseli this morning. Eseli, this week has been, or last week has been actually a very difficult week for your party chairman. Debarl in a gold scam, we had audio clips all over. Talk to us.
It's been an eventful week, I would say, with all manner of things flying around in social media. So we are all waiting for the investigation that once he comes back and gives his statement, we'll then get a clearer picture of what his role might have been in this so-called gold saga. Because so far, what we have is just what we have on that clip. So we need to get him to, after he has given his statement, we'll be able to have some knowledge as to what transpired.
But you've been close to the Senator Tangula and listening to that particular clip. Do you think we need to go through the forensic, investigation there?
It's routine.
Yeah, it's routine. But from your assessment, is it the voice of your party chairman?
You know, it's difficult to tell in these days of
No.
Cambridge.
From your own assessment, I know it's difficult. Yeah.
In this state of Cambridge Analytica, anything can happen. People can do anything with the IT. But I would say that I would rather he gives his version first, because I would be the wrong one to give his version, even if he had told me. I would be the wrong one to be the one giving the version.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll be looking at in that much later, deeply with our panelists who will be here. Of course, Aaron Cherio, Eseli, Otieno Molo, also eagerly waiting for Kimani Wamatangi to join us, and Jacob Mediwo. We missed also Boni Halwale this time forth. I think he's been a bit slippery for the last 2 weeks. Yeah. And now I know also Ford Kenya is suffering. You'll tell us much more about this. I don't know if you're suffering because we've lost your deputy.
No, we are not suffering.
You're not suffering?
No. He had already gone.
He had already gone?
Yeah.
You saw, okay, the writing was on the wall.
He's been away for about 8 months or so. So he has not attended any meetings. He has not participated in any party functions. So he was already gone.
Fantastic.
Whatever he did was just formalizing it.
It was just formalizing?
Yeah.
All right.
In any case, the party was already in the process of finding out whether he was still with us or not.
All right.
He opted to skip that session by leaving earlier. Fantastic. Which I think makes it easier for us, because when the disciplinary committee meets, it also costs. So actually he reduced the costs on our part.
Okay, we shall be looking at that. And also Kachumbari Eurobond is also on the table. That also we will feast on it this morning as well with our panelists. But that will be much later in the course of the program. But for now, the good, the bad, and ugly in our dailies this morning, beginning with the Daily Nation. This is what is on the front page of the Daily Nation. Teachers reject NEMIS student number system. It says ministry uses learner database to allocate funds and books. It says a government project to capture the details of every student has run into a strong headwinds because of miscapitation funds. This story is tucked away on page 4 of the Daily Nation this morning. And it says also, we have here a bite from Kahi Indimuli. This is the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association chair saying, quote unquote, the Ministry of Education should work on its database so that we do not paralyze the operations of schools. Follow the story on page 4 of the Business Daily. Also still, the fake gold scam continues. Key suspects in fake gold scandal free to roam despite uproar is what is a sub-headline there, or a sidebar story. Zahir Chanda, who has been identified as having played a key role in the scam targeting a member of Saudi royal family, did not present himself to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations as he had promised during an interview with NTV. Instead, he has been on a publicity run, issuing interviews to media houses since last Friday. Nobody has called me, he said, over the weekend. I have had my name mentioned, and as law-abiding citizen of his nation, I will go to the DCI. This story continues on page 4 or page 6 of the Daily Nation this morning. Also, still, maybe I didn't give you the gritty details about the names. The NEMIS, I should say, this is teachers rejecting NEMIS student number system. The student registration process begins with a birth certificate. Learners present their documents at the school level, and the details are forwarded to a centralized center. And then unique student number. Ministry of Education uses the document to generate a unique number for every learner in school. An aggregation of all students' numbers creates a national database that government uses to determine funding needs. Right, that should be database there, a bit of a typo. Then teachers say a code designed to weed out ghost learners by capturing duplicated numbers is denying them funding. You can follow the story, as I've mentioned, on page 4 of the Daily Nation this morning. Education CS George Magoha defends NEMIS, saying it will enable the provision of quality, reliable and timely education statistics to enrich the government's planning processes. So what is really happening on this particular front of the academia? We've seen the toing and froing over issues of also the curriculum-based studies as well, and the ministry uses the learner database to allocate funds and books. This is all about also capitation as well. There's a lot happening in the air as far as teachers, other ministries is concerned. Remember also from January we had pronouncements from the then CS of Education saying they were going actually to suspend this particular I should say CBS for a while, but again after some few weeks there was change of tone as well. And now we can see also from the Secretary General of NAT, that is Wilson Sossion. In the beginning, he had actually warmed up to this particular idea, but now he's not really, of course, for it, as far as we've seen the recent spat on media as well. So we shall also be discussing this with our panelists momentarily, but you can grab a copy of the Daily Nation to also read all these developments on page 4 of the Daily Nation. The gold scam as well, still investigations is ongoing. We're given to understand also that investigators have flown now to Dubai also to try and follow this particular gold scam story. Let's see what is happening on the front page of the Standard, and this is what you're waking up to. The big debate on new school learning system. This is also the splash here on the front page of the Standard. And NAT's position is this: one, they say there was no public participation. Secondly, 2-day training not sufficient for teachers. Thirdly, they say we should adopt outcome-based education, that is OBE, not competency-based curriculum, CBC. 4, no policy. 5, no sessional paper. 6, no needs assessment done. This is their position, according to Sossion. Also, the ministry's position is this: 1, we have evidence to show we engaged all the stakeholders, including that. Secondly, teachers all over the world are not trained to deliver a specific curriculum. The short training we're doing are enough. Also, thirdly, OBE and CBC are the same. They focus on competencies and skills. Also, policy launched last week, sessional paper with Parliament, needs assessment done in 2009. This story also tucked away on page 4 and 5 of today's Standard. The Star is up next, and this is what you're waking up to. Oh, that is a Citizen, but this is a Star for you. DCI officers fly to Dubai in gold probe. That is a splash. As I mentioned earlier, investigators will record Ali Zandi's statement regarding fake gold. ODM claims DP William Ruto is using the scandal to bring down Interior CS Fred Matiang'i, and this story is tucked away on page 4 and 5 of the Star this morning. Also, Joho plans to ban tuk-tuks in Mombasa. Say goodbye to those ubiquitous black and yellow tuk-tuks in Mombasa CBD's and then say goodbye to matatus and buses. The city, plagued by traffic jams, will face them out to decongest traffic. This story continues on page 25 of the Star this morning. Illegal foreigners doing gambling to be deported. Interior CS Fred Matiang'i has issued a list of directors of betting companies to the Inspector General of Police and the Director of Criminal Investigations for review. The move is aimed at fishing out those operating with work permits not authorized for gaming. This story continues on page 2 of the Star this morning. Also hard at work here is youth clearing rubbish from the Dandora section of the Nairobi River in efforts to reclaim the polluted river. This story also, you can find it inside the Star this morning. People Daily is up next, and this is what you're waking up to on the front page of the People Daily. Jubilee was Paul's dilemma for public servants. That is what we have as the splash today, and you can see the face of the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Interior. This is Kibiso. Catch-22 situation. Senior officials resort to clever balancing tactics to accommodate competing political interest in administration trapped in growing rift within its ranks. This story continues on page 6 of the People Daily this morning. Also, windfall credit for small-scale traders. Read all about that in the Business Hub inside the People Daily this morning. Teachers ignore Sosion order on new competency-based curriculum is a new development there. You can follow the story on Newsbeat on page 5 of the People Daily this morning. We continue and see what is on the front page also of the Taifa Leo. And this is your splash this morning. Uhuru apondwa nyumbani, it says. Wakazi wa Mlima Kenya washutumu rais kwa sera ambazo wamesema zinawatatiza kiuchumi. This story continues on page 2 of Taifa Leo. Also, Joho asusia kikao kikuu nyumbani kwa Ruto is another story that you want to follow also on page 6 of Taifa Leo. Also, mbunge apatwa na kosa la wizi wa shilingi milioni 4, I should say. The story continues on page 5 of the Taifa Leo this morning. Also here is a standalone picture. Wakazi wapinga hatua. This is wakazi wa kijiji cha Kapngetich katika kaunti ya Uasin Gishu wakiandamana jana kupinga hatua ya kutenga ekari 1800 kutenganisha mashamba yao na kampuni ya kutengeneza risasi ya Kenya Ordnance Factories Corporation. Also, this story, you can find it inside Taifa Leo this morning. Business Daily, we buckle down to business a bit, and this is what is on the front page of the Business Daily this morning. Business Daily, where is the Business Daily here? Okay, I'll show you the hard copy much later, but we can cross over to Tanzania and pick up the Citizen. This is the Citizen for you. Investors want too much from Bagamoyo Port. That is what we have as a splash today inside the Citizen in Tanzania, or on the front page of the Citizen. You can follow this story also on page 2 of the Citizen. TPA Director General, that is Dedit Kakoko, says discussions on the giant $10 billion facility have stalled because investors' conditions were likely to deny Tanzania maximum benefits from the port when it becomes operational. You can follow this story on page 2 of the Citizen in Tanzania. Also, cashew nuts, still hot topic in Parliament, is a story that you can follow on page 2 as well of the Citizen. Magufuli meets with Swedish minister in Dar. You can see a standalone picture here. President John Magufuli holding talks with Swedish Minister for International Development Cooperation. This is Peter Eriksson at State House in Dar es Salaam yesterday. Also, we can see Ambassador to Tanzania, that is Anders Joberg. You can follow the story also on page 3. Anders Joberg, of course, was accompanying the minister. This story continues also inside the Citizen. Bunge Committee grills Masele for 5 hours. Follow the story on page 3 if you're waking up in Tanzania this morning. Also still in Tanzania, we have Mwananchi, which is the Swahili version of the Citizen. Jaji Ramadhani azungumzia ma-DED kusimamia uchaguzi. That is the splash here. You can follow the story on page 4 of Mwananchi. Also bungeni, Masele aojiwa kwa saa 4, asema kusimamia haki si utovu wa nidhamu. And this story continues on page 6 of Mwananchi. If you're waking up in Tanzania, moto wa biashara ya korosho wawaka upya bungeni. All the details are tucked away on page 2 in Tanzania, or the Mwananchi in Tanzania. Let's see what is happening in Uganda, and we can pick up now the Daily Monitor. This is what is on the front page of the Daily Monitor. MPs stuck as budget hits 40.5 trillion shillings. That is Tanzania, that is Uganda's shillings. And this is a stalemate. This comes after Finance Minister suggested new requirements to the initial proposal, increasing the total national budget by 1 trillion shilling. The story continues on page 3. You can follow the story, not page 3, but page 5 of the Daily Monitor. That is 1 trillion shillings, the national budget increasing in Uganda. Also, death on the leg again. Why? There is a probing question there, and we can see residents of Fofo landing site in Buseruka sub-county in Holima district looking on as Marine Police conduct a research, or a search I should say, operation of bodies of people who drowned in Lake Albert after the boat they were traveling in capsized on Sunday. Only 13 bodies had been recovered by press time yesterday. This story continues on page 6 and 7 of the Daily Monitor in Uganda. Let's see what is the splash in Rwanda, and this is the New Times. Kampala regime killing on people. Ugandan minister says this, and this is a splash on the front page of the New Times in Rwanda today. A Ugandan cabinet minister has said that President Yoweri Museveni's government is behind a spate of killings in which high-profile personalities, including government officials, have been killed in recent years. The truth is that the killers are within security and government. This is what Eden Taba, the Minister of State for ICT, quoted by Uganda newspaper Daily Monitor as saying. You can follow the story on page 3 of the New Times in Rwanda. Also, Gashumba calls for united fronts to prevent disease outbreak in Africa. That is another story you can follow on page 2. And future of work. Experts say digital skills key to growth. And we can see Prime Minister Edward Ngirente interacting with, this is Jaime Saavedra, or Saavedra I should say, Senior Director of World Bank Education Global Practice during the 5th PASIT Forum in Kigali yesterday. African countries should work together to invest in digital skills among the youth in higher learning institutions and technical and vocational education and training to harness the potential of technologies, according to experts. You can follow this story on page 4 of the New Times this morning. Let's see what also is holding as a splash on the front page of the East African this week. And this is how it looks. Freedom suffers as African strongmen target NGOs. Is a splash. Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda, South Sudan, Eritrea, Ethiopia, before Abiy Ahmed, Omar al-Bashir's Sudan, and al-Sisi's Egypt are cited as countries that have since 2010 passed laws to curtail NGOs' activities. This story, you have the full report on page 4 of the East African assault on civic space is what the flagger is reading on top there. Also, a cyber story, Kenya, IMF to deal. Rate cap, no issue. The country is discussing a new standby credit facility with lender. Kenya expects to finalize a deal with the International Monetary Fund within 2 months, and the lender is not insisting on the removal of the interest rate cap as a precondition for our new deal. Finance Minister Henry Rotich said this on Thursday, and of course this is a bow down from the IMF as well, who they'd given a precondition that now the interest rates should be capped, but now this is not the same. Again, they're changing, and you can follow the story on page 38 of the East African. Also, US, an increasing threat to region. You can follow the story also in our pullout or the pullout magazine inside the East African this week. Let's see what is happening as far as the editorial cartoons are concerned this morning, what they've drawn for us. And this is, let's begin here by looking at what is in the Daily Nation today. Right, try and go back a bit. This is what now has been drawn. Let's begin with the Daily Nation according to Stano, and this is what Stano has drawn for us today. Kenya-Dubai relations on Sheikh ground. right? Kenya-Dubai relations on shaky ground. This is what now we've been drawn for this morning by Victor, and we can see that is Sheikh Maktoum walking inside now, this particular gaping jaws of the crocodile. The gold is inside there. What does this really portend as far as our relations is concerned? Diplomacy on trial here between Kenya and UAE. Right, let's continue and see what also is on the front page. Not really the front page, but the editorial cartoon inside the Standard. And this is what Gado has drawn for us. Where the hell is Iran anyway? And of course, we can see the US-Iran tension is still rising. This is what is on the front page. Not really the front page. I don't know why I'm insisting on the front page, but this is the editorial page of the Standard today. Let's see also what has been drawn by, that is not Stano, but Gado. This is now Stano inside the People Daily. Rest in peace, Matungu killings. You did it. And of course now the accusatory fingers are being raised from the security officers and the politicians as well. We've seen the recent developments as far as some of the legislators actually were thrown into the slumbers as far as Matungu killings is concerned. This is what now has been drawn by, this is Stano inside the People Daily this morning. Now I want to hark you back now to 1963 also to show you how the Daily Nation looked then and what was the splash, and you can see the difference so far. This is May 21st, Tuesday, 1963. The paper was going for 30 cents then, and this was a splash then. The bumper poll, 93% voted in Kiambu area. Although no official figures are yet available, the percentage poll in virtually every region throughout Kenya for the regional assemblies at the weekend was extremely high. The tentative figures quoted by election headquarters in Nairobi yesterday covered only a few of the reports from other areas support these figures. Percentage polls varied from 70% in Eldoret to the fantastically high 93% at Kiambu. Other available figures not officially confirmed: Uasin Gishu 70%, Trans Nzoia 74%, Central Nyanza 80%, Mombasa about 75%, and Taita 80% as well. That is how it looked. Also, we had this picture: police called after scuffle. This is NFD rebuff for Kenya, and we can see here, not clearly though, and the caption reads, Mr. Clement Lubembe, KANU candidate for the Senate, a police officer and a third man in conversation outside Barclays Bank Government Road, Nairobi yesterday after an incident there. Earlier there was scuffle as KANU party workers pasted posters on the bank wall. A bucket of paste was kicked over. A large crowd gathered but dispersed after the police arrived. This is how it looked then. Not very clearly shown here because, of course, this was the technology then. And Spaceman, the first picture. Also, Nyerere brings warm greetings. And it says here, completely unheralded, a smiling President Julius Nyerere of Tanganyika arrived at deserted Nairobi airport yesterday to give a message of warmest goodwill to the people of Kenya. The message departs. However, the president declined. The message apart, it says, however, the president declined to talk to the press. President Nyerere, who was stopping overnight in Nairobi en route for the Addis Ababa Heads of State Conference, was met on arrival by Kenya's acting governor, I should say, Sir Eric Griffith Jones. And this is how, of course, it looked then also on the front page of a Daily Nation. So we've come from far, and this really tells you how it was then. And I just want to show you also this particular picture from our archives, courtesy of our print library. And this is the Minister of Finance, Mwai Kibaki, meeting Mother Teresa. This was in 1980 here in Nairobi. She was received by the then Minister of Finance, Mwai Kibaki. This is from our archives. Good. Make sure you grab a copy of the Daily Nation, the Standard, the Star, the People Daily, whichever paper that really floats your boat. But I'll be remiss if I don't show you what is on the front page of the Business Daily. I didn't have my soft copy, but here you go. With the hard copy, it says that rich Kenyans wire back 1 trillion shillings in offshore banks. That is what we have on the front page of the Business Daily. Rich Kenyans wire back 1 trillion shillings in offshore banks. Tax agency says 16,000 applicants took advantage of 3-year amnesty offered for those with cash stashed abroad. Rich Kenyans wire back 1 trillion shillings in offshore banks. You can follow this story on page 4 of the Business Daily. Wealthy Kenyans have wired back an estimated 1 trillion shillings from offshore accounts in the past 3 years, taking advantage of tax amnesty offered by the Treasury. The Kenya Revenue Authority, in a response to Business Daily queries, said the amount was repatriated by some 16,000 applicants who took advantage of the amnesty window, during which they were not required to declare the source of the wealth or even account for it. You can follow the story on page 4 of the Business Daily. Also, CMA recovers more cash in Kenol Kobil trades probe. That is another story. You can follow all the gritty details on page 4 of the Business Daily. Insurer to pay 400 million shillings for Dusit attack is another story there that is tucked away as well on page 4 of the Business Daily this morning. So make sure you grab a copy of the Business Daily as well. Now, as investigators try to unmask the faces behind the fake gold trade, the politics of gold are gathering steam. Politicians allied to ODM leader Raila Odinga say he had been dragged into the circus as just a diversion, as Interior CS Fred Matiang'i was the real target. National Assembly Minority Leader John Mbadi claims the DP's allies were planning to impeach Matiang'i. Let's listen to this particular bite.
Wakatuambia hapo katikati ati wataenda Canaan yenyewe ikawa ya bandia. Saa hii ati wanauza gold, hiyo gold pia ni ya bandia.
Ruto hawezi kuzungumzia mambo ya ufisadi. If there is a con man, watu wa Kenya na kila mahali wanajua.
The target is Fred Matiang'i. The other talks is just hot air. The point is, the fact that someone mentions a conman says that give me money, I'm going to talk to so and so, does not make that person is referring to become a culprit.
When you have other things, you organize a press conference for those other things.
Have you seen today's editorial cartoon? Of course, this is in light of what I've just shown you before. But if you're joining us, this is how it looks today. Kenya-Dubai relations on shaky ground. We want to hear from our panelists this morning, especially Dr. Eseli, because now also the party leader has been embroiled in this. What does it portend for his party leader? This is Wetangula. We've had clips that has been doing rounds in the media. But you say, and if you joined us at the top of the hour, we had this particular discussion with him just briefly as a segue to the show this morning. But your party leader has been embroiled in this. There was a lengthy conversation on this. He's actually dragged big names as well on this particular scam as well. Looking at this editorial cartoon, what do you have to say?
First, we need to get this clear. I'm the spokesman for Fort Kenya, the party, not spokesman for the party leader.
Very good.
But how do you uncouple now your party leader?
You need to get that very clear, because I know in this country, I used to party leaders owning the party. But Fort Kenya now doing about 27 years since formation, is the second oldest party in the country. You realize that Fort Kenya is not about the party leader. So I'm a spokesman for Fort Kenya, the party, not the party leader. However, to comment on this issue, I would say that the Tanga side finally feel that they found something to hold on to against the handshake side. But I think that's just clutching on straws, because the two issues are very different when you look at the corruption that was being talked about and now this issue. While we do not condone any such activities anywhere in the country or elsewhere, but I would suggest that I would leave it until the party leader himself gives his statement to give his side of the story. because in these days, this age, or this time and age where we live in the days of Cambridge Analytica, anything can be can be done to manipulate anything that that is related to social media. So I would rather leave him to comment and give his side as to what exactly happened. But for those who are taking advantage of it to play politics with it, I think they need to give it time. We'll see what the outcome will be. But I'm amused that the main culprits in this saga is actually pictured, is photographed. I think the pictures were all over the social media also, with all the people, including the DP, sitting with the fellow called Janda or somebody, whom I've never personally met. So I think it's somebody who is a friend of almost all of them. So it's something that we need to digest and see. But I must admit that is not the way we would like Kenya to be. One, we don't have as much gold in the country. So if we happen to be the gateway for the export of DRC gold, then we need to be very above board with such transactions, so that the country's reputation is not besmirched.
But this really showcases maybe what a country we are as far as national values are concerned.
But I think on that one, I'd already said earlier in this program and several times that that Kenya is one large criminal enterprise, and everybody just tries to find their niche. So that actually goes to solidify my opinion that Kenya is a large criminal enterprise.
All right. Aaron Cheriot, now we can see now the Deputy President has been going ham and tongs on this as well. Now he's really gotten a fodder to, castigate the opposition as far as this scam is concerned.
Nothing could be further from the truth. It only solidifies what we have always told you, that these are conmen we are dealing with. In this town, Debarl, I don't know how long you've been around, but there's something they call Mtupe ni Msanye.
Mtupe ni Msanye?
Yes. If you ask the young people who know this city well, they'll tell you that there are thugs who operate, say, if they are to operate on a street like this one of yours, and they sometimes do, what they do, if you're driving, yes, one of them will come and knock on your right side window and distract you. While you're concentrating on them, the other one will be uprooting your side mirror on the left side. That is exactly what some of these people have been doing, and that's what we've tried to tell you, but some of you people don't listen enough. That many of these scammers are known, but they keep on shouting at the topmost of their voices how others are thieves. But the truth of the matter is that to them, this one corruption, these old theories about who is a thief, who is not a thief, is just good political fodder for them to be able to give them cover to advance their fake currency and fake gold business, which they seem to understand better than anything else. Having said that, though, it is very surprising, and you know, Sally, sometimes you should not. At least if you underestimate the intelligence of Kenyans, don't do so on the rest of your colleagues here on your panel. Somebody like you, who is always very forthright in his thinking and very sure about the positions of his party and what they need to do. For you to come on the show this morning and tell us that your party leader can be embroiled in such a scandal of this magnitude. Remember last week, Debarl tried to get you to speak about this particular issue, but we were stuffed for time, so we ended up not speaking about it. Mm-hmm. For Eseli to come here today and tell us that, there's a difference between Ford Kenya and the party leader, this is an issue facing the party leader, with no allusion at all to tell us even, at least the simple and most decent thing that Eseli should have done is to tell us, I've had discussions with our party leader. He says this thing is a creation of maybe a propagandist. He absolutely has nothing to do with it, or it's a business deal gone sour. But for him to feign complete aloofness on the matter and try and pretend that it has completely nothing to do with Ford Kenya. I mean, if you're a spokesman of Ford Kenya, Eseli, don't your party members want to know if what is happening to their party leader is true or not? And as their Secretary General, you owe it to them to explain and say what you're reading on the media is not true. Our party leader is not involved in this kind of shady deals, and in the fullness of time, he shall be coming out to give a conclusive response to this particular matter. But for you to try and scatter under, very verbose argument of saying, oh, there's a difference between the party and the leader. For sure, it is the leaders that make the party. It is the confidence that comes from having a strong person of good character that will endear and push your party to achieve its political objectives. Therefore, what I expect you to tell us is, Senator Wetangula, my colleague, and I have done this because he's also my friend, is involved in this particular issue to this particular extent. Either he made the phone call or he didn't make. Is he aware of this issue or he isn't aware? You are his close political confidant. So the least you could do for the country at this particular time where we are facing this kind of challenges is to speak the truth and tell us what you know so far, but not to hide under that veil. Having said that, Debarl, there's something that really worries me as well. The erosion of our national values and how it continues. The biggest problem, Debarl, is that we have a country where everyone can get away with anything, and we make noise about certain vices only to us, is in as far as it doesn't hinder our political persuasions or those of whom we hold dear to us. That is why on many occasions you'll find people will be so strong and very solid about certain political scandals. But the minute it appears to be targeting those that are close and dear to them, you'll see them chicken out and fizzle out of it. And unfortunately, the same is not true of us, the politicians only. You see it even in the lives of everyday Kenyans, where their noise and their anger towards a political scandal is only measured to the extent of how much does it affect my political leader, the person that I love. If it is somebody that I have great admiration for, then it can only be that he has been fixed or somebody is trying to manufacture a scandal for them. We really need a national discourse on what is it that we can do as a people, such that we end up having a country where people have respect for values. Article 10 of this constitution, Debarl, speaks about national values, and the things that we are supposed to espouse as a people. There is very clear indication that in every sector of society, and sometimes it's only the leaders who get the flack, especially the political leaders. But when you take your walk across private sector, even private citizens, as they go about their business in this country, they do everything but follow the values of Article 10 of our Constitution. Therefore, until such a time, many of the problems that Kenya continue to face, Debarl, has got absolutely nothing to do with our politics, nothing to do with our Constitution, but everything to do with our value systems as a people. So long as we are not ready to discuss and say, okay, we admit that as a people we have gone wrong in this regard, how do we rectify moving forward? We shall not be able to make good progress as a nation.
Right, thank you. Let's hear from Dr. Otiene Amolo.
Yeah, thank you, Debarl.
And also you have there the chairman of ODM coming out to the fore to defend also the Right Honorable Raila Odinga on this, even before the investigation is done.
Thank you, Debarl. I would understand the excitement of Aaron, and I'll come back to it presently. Dr. Esel is not in a good place today because his party leader is alleged, and we must always emphasize that word alleged to have been in a conversation. I would not state like Aaron Cheruiyot that he has done. No, but alleged. Aaron, hold on.
He didn't say.
But his deputy party leader has also defected and is a bride without a groom because he has defected to a party where no one has received him.
We'll come.
We'll come back to the
I'm just
party
saying,
leader.
No. I'm just saying, if you want Eseli to be speaking for his leader and his deputy party leader, you can understand the difficulty.
In fact, we expected Wamatangi.
Now, let me come back to the question. And I'm going to talk about this, conscious of the caution by the DPP
that the less we talk about it, the better for the investigation. And conscious of the fact from the headline of the Star that the DCI have even flown to Dubai to investigate this matter. So there are 4 matters that intrigue me without going into the details and without casting direct aspersion. The first one is the question of the complaint or complainant. Then the timing, the excitement, and the real target of all this excitement. In terms of the complaint, what intrigues me is that there appears to be a matter being dealt with and prosecuted more by my colleagues in this country than the people who are alleged to be the complainants. In none of this report have I seen that anybody has lodged any formal complaint with the police. I've seen references that there was a gentleman who was here for almost, was it 2 or 3 months? Or is it a month? But there's no allegation that any complaint has been lodged with the police. I am intrigued that we are talking about the leader of UAE, and to date, the embassy has refused to comment about it. I'd have thought that that is the first thing. That would be the more formal channel to complain to the authorities in this country. I've seen reports that the alleged complaint through the media is that the gold that belongs to the leader of UAE was held in the country, which means that it is alleged that the gold was already theirs. So I'm intrigued, but I'm sure the DCI and the others will help us about that. Second is the timing. Suddenly, and I think from last week, this matter burst out in all the media houses at the same time. I think the only media house that owned up to have known about it earlier was The Nation. And there were references that Mr. Zandi had complained, I think, to The Nation sometime around February. But The Nation did not find the story juicy enough or did not find the need to air it at the time. But then suddenly, that matter is in all the media houses at the same time, without any allegation that there's anything new beyond what happened pre-February. And it intrigued me because I asked myself, who has the muscle to bring something that is historical suddenly into the limelight all through? Thirdly is the excitement. When you see the excitement of Aaron here, when you saw the excitement of the DP, and now referring to everyone, talking about our collective journey to Canaan and bringing it to the question of fake gold, when you've seen the utterances of my colleagues, Oscar Sudi, Murkomen, Cherugoi, and about 10 others, even over the weekend, then you see that this is not just the story of gold. This is the story of the future of this country, I think. Now, let me come to the target, and you asked me the direct question that we saw Mbadi, defending Raila and all that. In the clip, Mbadi did not defend Raila. Mbadi said the target is Matiang'i, okay? And now, let's now come to that. In my view, and we need to examine who is the target of all this excitement. When the DPP and DCI say, let's not comment about this, and the very next day, the deputy president goes and comments full blast and even associates those two wishes. In my view, and I agree with the Sally on this story of gold brings 3 names that the DP and his team have held the greatest grievance with in terms of the handshake. That is the president, that is the former prime minister, and Dr. Fred Matiang'i. And suddenly, because real or imagined, fake or unfake in terms of that conversation, those are the people they hold the greatest grievances with. So when Aaron Cheruiyot says, these are conmen, these are scammers, who is he referring to? When the deputy president says, we have had them, they are conmen, who is he referring to? It means he's referring first to the president, because he's the president of the republic. And in that alleged conversation, the president is named. And therefore, I don't even agree with my friend Honorable Mbadi, who is also my leader in parliament, that the target is Dr. Matiang'i. I think the target is the president. You cannot allege that you believe that alleged conversation caught on tape, which mentions Raila, it mentions Uhuru, it mentions Matiang'i, and then purport that in your interpretation, you exclude the president. I think the bottom line is, this is the single occasion when the Tanga Tanga team believe they now have the occasion to put the president in his place. And if there's any impeachment, it's not about Dr. Matiang'i. It is about the president. Lastly, I saw comments by Murkomen and others about the fact that Raila is in the DRC and all. I think it's laughable, and it's annoyingly laughable. First of all, I want to give my friend Aaron Cheriot free legal advice. Whether he takes it or not, I don't know. And then he can also transmit it to the others. That sometimes, in the spur of the moment, you can utter words which you think are okay, and which you even think you can be protected. But when then later you are held to account, when you are sued, you will have to handle it individually. And therefore, you want to be careful what you say. Raila has been in DRC before. Three things to be said. First of all, Raila was in DRC even during the inauguration of the president. And therefore, the idea that Raila is in DRC cannot be linked to this nonsense. Secondly, by all accounts, all these things arose way before even the election of the president in DRC. So they are historical issues. And lastly, as clear from the tweets and the accounts of the prime ministers, he was in DRC on key fundamental issues on his office as the High Representative for Africa. So let's leave the issue of this gold. Let's help. And anybody with any information should actually help the DCI. But let's not take the opportunity to try and bury all the real scandals that Tanga have in their hands and hope that by this gold thing, you can rubbish all that away, you can propel the DP to be the single most correct person in this country, and then you can hope to solve the names of everyone else. Yes.
Let's say from Jacomi Dio then, if we have, as it's alleged, and we have leaders who are alleged maybe being embroiled in this particular scandal and many other scandals as well, where then do we have that temerity and maybe the audacity to come and tell Kenyans that we should fight corruption? Are we losing this war on corruption if the key figures we take as Kenyans to be stabilizing figures of these particular conversations are really embroiled in corruption itself?
Thank you, Debarl. Debarl, I think it's the country of Malaysia where there was a constitutional reform, but the main issue that drove them to the reforms was about corruption. And the first victim was the Prime Minister, who led the constitutional reform. What am I saying? If it is Uhuru, if it is Raila, who are the gold scammers? If it is Wetangula, arrest them. I mean, why isn't the law blind? But you must understand what William Ruto is saying is all politics. He thinks, but I think it's kind of like cheap politics. Because, in this country, for you to be relevant, you must call Raila's name. Anybody. And eventually, in my experience, is that the people who do it so often always go irrelevant. Read Murkomen. You just become irrelevant because you say things that don't befit your stature and the office you hold. He is the majority leader in the Senate. So when he just talks, it doesn't make sense. But it does not take away the underlying issue, Debarl, that this country needs fixing. We need to fix our country, whether it is to fix Uhuru, whether it is to fix Raila, whether it is to fix Ruto. We will fix, and you can know that the noises being made is because people are fixed. I found it very interesting. First of all, let me correct my friend, one of the gentlemen that said, I think it was Eseli, that said, all these people have met this Janda guy. In those photos, I looked at them. There is no Musalia with Janda. He's not there. So that is also something to note. It's also good to be fair to all these people. In all those people, there is a story that the president was only called for complaints that there was something wrong going. You're talking about something of a value of 30 billion shillings. So the president has allowed the investigations to go on. I am also told that Raila, the concerns were raised to them. If they if there is a scintilla of truth, Debarl, that there is impropriety, I think we owe it to Kenyans not to spare anybody. But what bothers me, Debarl, that the deputy president spent about 3 days in Western Kenya, 2 or 3 days. And in that trip, on that trip, they're talking about Your Excellency 2022. And nobody spoke about the plight of teachers. Nobody spoke about the high food prices. Nobody spoke about the economy. Nobody. William Ruto, if he wants to be the president of this country, must account for the ills of Jubilee, a government which has been in power for 7 years without anything positive to say about it. They took, just through corruption, they took everything that Kibaki left and they decided to destroy it. And I know his wishes is to take Kenya back to where it was in 2002 when Kibaki took over. I want to say that Kenyans are not stupid. Kenyans see through what is going on. What is going on, the noises you have seen about this gold, why isn't there noise about the arrest of 100 KRA employees? The gold is a good distraction away from the war against corruption. And that is the intended goal. I want to encourage the DCI, whom they said was a briefcase carrier for the president, to ignore them. Keep the work and the path you have been walking. Because you saw the people who have been abusing the DCI, Weluke, who today is in the paper as having scammed the country. I know that case in this Erad company, 3.8 billion shillings, that was the scam. So it is a case where thieves are calling innocent people thieves. And what we must do is to stop them from distracting us from the war against corruption. And we must stand in their way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kimani Watangi.
Yes, Debarl, let me say good morning to our viewers. We've started the day on an interesting note. And Debarl, for a moment there when you are conversing with Otiende Amolo, I heard like you had wanted to suggest that I should have been there to receive halwale.
Yes. You read my mind. In fact, I thought you'll have come with a cake today. It's only that we don't have a halwale here. So that you can cross over.
Anyway, Debarl, I've been listening to this discussion. And not only here, but since it started. And I've been wondering, most of these people who are speaking about this corn game as though it is something new, where have they been? And I'll tell you why. Because this gold corn game or corn plan was there even before DESI. The DESI's come. It was there even before people started painting bottles with aluminium and peddling it as mercury. I don't know whether somebody has ever tried to con you with mercury. This gold scam has been there, and it has really existed. Let me tell you about last year. I think last year, but just before the elections, some people came and approached me. I was in one of the hotels here in Nairobi, and there are people that I know. I know one of them is a local business person. Some people who are well-to-do, so to say. And they came to me and sat with me and told me, now, we want you to help us because you have an office, you are a senator. We have some people that have money, and you can help us to access this money. And they produced a whole bunch of papers which look so genuine and stamped by KRA from the airport and the customs department. And they went through to flip them one, and they showed me these documents show that there is gold stored in the airport. And this gold comes from DRC. At least they were candid enough with me not to try and con me. So they told me what we just want you to do is because you have an office, we want to bring you some clients. And your work is only to tell them that you can take them to Njeraini, the Commissioner General. And once you take them there, you will tell them that you can negotiate with him, and at least he can give some percentage of the storage fees, which was reading in millions of shillings, and
In today's Standard?
Yeah, in today's Standard,
okay.
Because, and we seem to have inherited it. Remember when Joseph Kabila was here, and he went all over this country with stories about his gold. and what I've been asking myself, why is it only that this gold from Congo is the only gold that is scammed, and not from any other place? like
from Migori.
Not from Migori, not from South Africa, but only from Congo. But now to the issue, Debarl, one of my concerns is this. Remember, there was a time when some two nationals from the UAE, who are from the royal family, came to Kenya. They had a stint, I think, at the airport with some officials there in Kenya Airways. Then the resultant after that was when they flew back, all Kenyans in Dubai started to be harassed. Actually, most of them were ordered to leave. And restrictions were imposed on Kenyans who are going to travel to Dubai, and especially business people. And the Emirates then started demanding that if you want to get a visa to go to Dubai, you must be a degree holder. And remember the strife that was around this country, because most of the business people who go to Dubai are not necessarily degree holders. And that is the time when River Road got very busy with people faking degrees to go and apply for visas to go to the UAE. Now, what I'm saying is that, if this kind of thing happens, and let us say that believably, because there's been this claim that this Zandi is connected to the royal family, and we don't know. Supposing then they decide to take some action, and I saw a post the other day, I think from BBC, and I don't know whether it was a genuine one, and they were saying that there has been some discussions alongside taking measures that are punitive towards Kenyans who are in Dubai. Mm-hmm. So you'll be asking yourself, what is the exposure? Debarl, let's also say to Kenyans, actually, if you travel abroad, one of the things that happens all the time is if you flag down a taxi, and I'll tell you that from personal experience. I was in Dubai, in other places like Hong Kong, London. If you flag down a taxi and you are a black man and you go to show your face, you want to tell them where you want to go, the first thing they ask you is, Nigerian? Because, and I say that, dispassionately, no ill meant to the Nigerian citizens, but they ask you that, and if you say yes, they will not carry you, they will not take you. But they first want to know if you belong to that community, because they believe that if you're just going to mess them. All I'm saying is, if we allow this then to be the perception around Kenyans in the diaspora, in Dubai, in other places, that we are con men.
Thank you.
We hit people for what we don't have.
Thank you.
I think it goes down a long way. Let me finalize by saying, Debarl,
we need to take a short break.
Why hasn't Zandi come to record a statement here? And that has been my question. And two, because we saw some boxes which were sealed, why can't they be opened? We see indeed what is in those boxes, whether it is real gold, whether it is fake gold, and then this can put to rest all this story. I believe that the more we deal with this like a simple con and scam that is dealt and peddled by street people,
Not necessarily, but it does not necessarily have to take the connection of top government for this to happen. I mean, it's a street con game.
Right.
That's how it should be dealt with.
Thank you. We need to take a short break right now. No, we need to take a short break right now. When we circle back, of course, we shall begin with you, Eseli, as well. And this is what the cartoon we've shown you that Wamatangi was talking about. What can I say? My legacy lives on. Since we've never even resolved that Goldenberg scam still, maybe this is a legacy that, yes, we're learning from as well. From Patni, he went also down to, was it Zambia or Zimbabwe?
Zimbabwe.
Yeah, Zimbabwe as well, with these schemes as well. So we take a short break right now. When we circle back, we continue with the politics of gold and what does it portend also for the political career of, this is Senator Wetangula as well. We shall hear from our panelists on the other side of a break. Right, welcome back. You're watching People and Politics here on AM Live, and we continue with the conversation, politics of course, the fake gold as well. And we are looking also, what does it portend for political career of Wetangula as well, as far as this scam is concerned? This is still a matter of under investigation, so we cannot be the judge, the jury, and the hangman on this. But we want to hear from our panelists as well on this particular deal itself. Before we took a short break, you wanted to say something.
I wanted to have a right of reply to what Senator Aaron took so long. For half his time, he purported to be educating me how to be a spokesman of my party. But no, he has never been a spokesman, so he doesn't know the responsibilities that come with it. However, I wanted to point out that, one, the venue,
we are seeing you.
The venue,
we are watching
the venue that was chosen by the DP to call other leaders conmen was very unfortunate, because it happened to be in Bungoma, and it was supposed to be a fundraising for women groups, which is very sad for our deputy president, who is actually collecting the taxes from Kenyans, including those mamas that he was holding a rambe for. He's collecting taxes from them, but he has not done anything to reduce their poverty. So now he goes there to hold a fundraising for them. You see the contradiction of it. I don't know which school of economics he has gone to, because that like he goes to a secondary school and holds a harambe for a secondary school, and is the deputy president, meaning that his government has failed to build infrastructure in schools. So that already the choice of venue is questionable, and calling people conmen. I think the biggest conman there would be the one who is collecting the people's taxes and not using them to reduce their poverty, but carries that same money to go and do harambes for them. That said and done, from my understanding, the senator was called by the royal family because of past engagement as a minister for foreign affairs. So starting from there, I would rather leave it there, let the investigators find out exactly what transpired. Because going on and on about it, dropping names, saying so-and-so did this, so-and-so did this, yet the same person, Jade, has not been called even to record a statement. I think we might be overstepping, and I think the DPP was right, that let's give the investigators time to come out with what exactly happened.
Okay. Let's hear from Aaron Cheriot on this. Maybe you want to respond as well before we continue with
yes,
Wetangula's career.
Of course, I'd wish to. And to start from where Eseli has left, first of all, is it an admission now on his part that audio that has been making rounds, was played on various media houses, and is what has generated the headlines?
I don't think I talked about the audio.
Is he now confirming?
I did not talk about the
because
audio.
He has just, Eseli has just told us that Wetangula's involvement in all this gold saga is because due to his past connections, he has connections with the royal family, and therefore he was trying to help his old friends.
I didn't say
and in the recordings, that is exactly what Wetangula says. So I don't know. Anyway, I wouldn't wish to dwell on it. But now that you have refused to listen to advice because you think maybe it is not credible, you can carry on with your part. But then I'd wish to remind you that is it not a fact, Eseli, that first of all, this the mastermind behind this thing, this Mr. Zahir Janda, is a member of your party?
No.
And he ran.
He's not a member of Ford Kenya.
Has he never run on Ford Kenya before?
No, never.
Please check your records.
No.
You need to confirm.
He's not a member of my party.
Let's leave it at that, because you need to familiarize yourself.
Unless you have used the same Cambridge Analytica methodologies to go to the register of political parties and insert his name in my party.
Eseli.
Because from my records, he's not.
Eseli. Don't be a heckler. I allowed you to speak. Please allow me to make my point as well. That has always been our practice on this show. I know today is a particularly hot day for you, but just bear with the heat. This storm will pass. We are used to this kind of scenarios. Anyway, coming to that, Debarl, I hope you have seen Otiende's subterfuge tendencies to always try and first of all distort what I have said, because I at no particular time in the course of my presentation this morning alluded to the fact that either Senator Wetangula is guilty or not guilty in any other way. In fact, if there is anyone now who has confirmed his involvement is none other than his Secretary General. The reason why we continue to say that this thing should not be treated casually, Debarl, is that you know that it was okay to a certain extent, so long as this debate about who hasn't kept his word, who is not doing the right thing, was between us as Kenyans, because as a people, we have always known how to live with each other. But the minute we begin to export our tendencies internationally and begin to involve even very high royal families, then you must remember that you're endangering the lives even of Kenyans who work in some of these countries, because it's about the image of us as a country. You can imagine what people say in UAE think of us now. If you can be conned by leaders of a particular country, what can the citizens do to you? And therefore, this matter shouldn't just be treated casually. And it is not for the DPP to tell us that do not engage and make this kind of discussions. I have seen what is wrong. You know, I don't seem to understand how DPP operates. On many occasions, I have seen Kenyans engage in this kind of debate every other time a scandal has broken out, where they say, oh, I think this is true, this is not true. I saw people having all manner of discussions during the saga of the false Kimwarer and Aror discussion. I never saw him seek any clarification. But all of a sudden, simply because the former Prime Minister and the President have been mentioned in the audio, he wants to curtail debate and say Kenyans shouldn't engage in this kind of debate. I feel that to that extent, the DPP has extremely lost it, and therefore shouldn't be lecturing us. Let Kenyans discuss. If they know any truth, what he should be calling for is that if there is any Kenyan who can offer information that will help solve the mystery of this gold saga, then they should be willing to give that information either to DCI or other relevant authorities, but not to tell people that you cannot engage in this kind of debate. Indeed, we are living in very interesting times. Who knew that on this panel, a few 8-10 months down the line, Otiende Amolo will be the biggest defender of government, and President Uhuru Kenyatta, more than myself, a Jubilee senator, telling me to, one, respect the president, that you are impeding improper motive.
No, this is the spirit of handshake.
This is the spirit of handshake.
Yeah.
Which,
a wise man changes his mind.
Which I find to be not only intriguing. You know, I've never changed my position on these things. I still hold that my party leader, the President of Kenya, is a honorable person who Kenyans did well by electing into office. There may be challenges, there may be things that I do not agree with him, but I still respect that particular agreement.
Thank you.
But this flip-flopping nature of Otiende and the Mbadis of this world, where today John Mbadi wants to tell me on how I can interact with CS Matiang'i. CS Matiang'i is an employee of this government. He works in the executive, I work in the legislature.
Thank you.
We are members of the same team. There are things that I agree with him, and on those ones he knows. There are things that we do not agree. And whenever we have had a disagreement with him, let me speak for myself, I pick my phone and call him and say, I do not agree with you on this particular issue or the other. So for ODM to try and lecture us on how we should conduct the affairs of government, I mean, he's not only misplaced, but wrong in their priorities.
Right, but if he has also the audacity to call a press conference and say that there is a scheme from some of the legislators from Jubilee to actually, collect signatures to impeach CS Matiang'i. On what intel is he really acting
who said
on?
That?
Yeah, this is actually on the front page of the Standard as well.
John Mbadi.
John Mbadi
yes,
himself.
Which is exactly what I'm saying. Has Mbadi run short of things to do in ODM that he now wants to purport on how to help us run our party as Jubilee?
Is there such a scheme, and where does he get all this information?
Ask Otiende.
All right, Otiende, this is...
Come back to that cartoon on Standard.
That cartoon on Standard.
Yeah,
okay.
there's something interesting about it.
All right, let me try and get the cartoon. Just continue as I try and pick it up.
As we are going back to the cartoon on Standard, Aaron, let's see your watch. I see some semblance between your watch and the things I'm seeing the pictures.
Where is the cartoon?
You must remember that this disclosure was made by none other than your recently found colleague, Boni Halwale, that you are wearing a gold watch. So now, in this era of fake gold and real gold, I don't know whether your watch is the fake one or the real one. But it means in this panel, the person who comes closest to this scam is you, in terms of what we have.
Let me come back to what I wanted to say. Now, I think, and let's be very clear about this, and I've said that, for example, that audio, I mean, I have a lot of questions around this issue, some of which I've presented, and two of which still stand out. One is that, as we are talking about a scam, in all the reports, and as I'm yet to see, and I think Jakoya alluded to this, and even Wamatangi, that there appears not to have been a formal police report. But the reports from the media say that the complaint is that the gold of the royal family, their gold, was either stolen or is missing in Kenya. Which then means it's a question of gold that was bought in Congo, and the problem is not that it is fake gold. The problem is that it's somehow disappearing in this country. That's what I understand this complaint to be about. And so it becomes very intriguing. If that is the case, then it's not a question of fake. It's a question of disappearing gold. Secondly, when I listen to that audio, and I mean, we'll leave it to the DCI to get to the bottom of it, it purports to depict a caller who is yet unidentified and a senator. And you ask yourself, so who could possibly, if it were true, who could possibly have taped it? Could it be the senator who taped it and released it? If it was true, it's unlikely. Are we saying that the royal family could have taped a conversation and then released it? To whom? It is unlikely. So there are so many things around this thing that begs a lot of questions, which brings me to my point. The point I made was this, and Aaron was not listening, so I hope now he's listening. That for the DP and many of my colleagues to purport to know more than us, because many of us have many questions, including the ones we post, but for them to purport to know more than us and to come to the conclusion on who are the cons, who are the scammers, and who are all these other things is nonsense on stilts. Because when Kimwarer and the Roar Dam issue arose, we had on more occasions than 30 from Aaron Cheriot here that matter is false. It is under investigation. Let us wait for investigation. Now he's telling us you do not need to wait for investigation. We have our conclusion. But the fundamental point I was making is this, and this is not about defending government more than yourselves and all that, because I didn't go there. All the words you used, I didn't use. Wherever you got them from, you know. My point was, as the deputy president of this country, as a senator in Jubilee, and all your colleagues in parliament, you cannot purport to believe the audio which mentions Matiang'i, mentions Raila, it mentions Uhuru, and then purport that to the extent that it is true, it's only insofar as it mentions Raila and Wetangula, and the rest of it is untrue. For you to say, and you've said it here, that these are conmen, the leaders are fake, it means you are targeting the president. And the fundamental point is, and I've made this before, the day the deputy president finds that he cannot believe the president, he cannot deputize the president, that is the day he should resign. Because it means you cannot deputize a person you do not believe in. So he can't go and purport to be attacking all those others mentioned in a yet to be established audio, and then purport that insofar as it goes, it does not touch on the president. The logical conclusion is that Aaron Cheriot, as a senator of Jubilee, the deputy president as the deputy to the president, and all the other MPs and those who've spoken on it, do not believe that the president should lead. And the impeachment, and that's what I said, I don't think Mbadi got it right. I think the impeachment is targeting the president, not Dr. Matiang'i. Yes.
All right, let's just hear from Jacob Midio. This is getting interesting.
It is getting very interesting. You have taken the words out of my mouth. It is getting interesting. But you know, Debarl, I think we are getting somewhere because...
Do you mind? I wanted to correct him something.
No, can we just... No, just let him finish. You will get your time.
Jadi ran on Jubilee ticket, not for Kenya.
Our candidate is a current MP, is on Jubilee. So you
all right, okay, you continue. Jacob Midio.
Yeah, you see, it's even getting now more interesting. Let me say this, Debarl. Something interesting has happened today. The DCI saying he has seen some things, some audios going out in the media, some tweets, whatever. Now, the spokesperson of Ford Kenya has said on this show that the senator, Mr. Wetangula, was called by the royal family because they know each other from the past. It therefore justifies, it says, it was a call, and that is a call recording. It actually now authenticates the conversation, because he seems to know there was a call. No, just let me
let him finish. You'll get your time.
You will get your time, because I think it is good to be fair to Kenyans. You pronounced yourself as the spokesperson of Ford Kenya, and you have said there was a call. You know, that is important, and I think it's the most important said this morning. The most important thing said this morning. Now, having said that, Debarl, the DCI cannot tell us not to talk. I think the DCI needs to talk more, because Kenyans need to know. The original story out there was that gold was intercepted at JKIA. How did gold find its way to Kileleshwa? How did this gold find its way in a compound whose main gate is guarded by GSU? Matiang'i must explain. You know, we can't, I think Mbadi is wrong, because what I saw about Mbadi, he's trying to exonerate Matiang'i. And that is wrong for Kenyans. You know, we can't play politics for the sake of it. Somebody must tell Kenyans 30 billion shillings found its way being guarded from, in Kileleshwa by GSU officers. How? We need to know, how did it leave the airport? We need to know all these things. And we also want to ask, how is somebody who is on the radar of the DCI, in the name of Wetangula, left to go through the same airport where the gold disappeared to go to Hong Kong? You know, we must fix this country. Some things are wrong, and I am sure he has gone on parliamentary duties on taxpayers' money. He is suspect. How come he has not written a statement? This is really the right way to go about it. Why this boy called Janda? I saw him on NTV last Friday evening. He said no gold came to Kenya, and that he is a shareholder of the company which is purportedly claiming the gold, and that gold was supposed to leave Zaire and come here using the road, then they would be paying taxes. I am wondering, a royal family of the UAE having gold transported by road through the Congo forest, through Uganda, through all this, it's one of the most dangerous roads in the world. Yeah. And you are transporting 30 billion shillings. This boy is still on the streets. He, in fact, in that interview by NTV journalist Debarl, the boy seemed to have been saying, DCI come from me, I'm available. What is DCI doing? And he's telling politicians, don't talk about it. No wonder the politicians are saying they're using it politically. While they're doing it like a joke. You know, somebody who is a wanted criminal like Weluke is going out there and saying that the DCI should act. Aaron comes here and says the DCI was only concerned about Aror. So the same DCI who is so bad for them should now be good for them to make arrests. And it is criminals who are there. And if they were bold enough, why did they only go there to talk about Uhuru and Raila? Why, if they were in Bungoma, why didn't they call out Wetangula? You are cowards.
They did.
No, they did not. No, they did not. I watched. You see, the thing is, Debarl, something is seriously wrong. Here we have a boy in the name of Jared Otieno, who finished Form 4 in the year 2005, by your own investigations, has a palatial home in Karen, where he only entertains on a weekend, and lives in Lavington the rest of the days with his family. A boy who finished Form 4 in the year 2005. I mean, what are we supposed to admire about this? I mean, in another world, these are people to take and hang in Uhuru Park. And nobody should be an exception. Aaron, no politics. Whoever is involved, let us support the DCI, let us support the DPP in this war against corruption. There can never be a bigger corruption than that. And Wamatangi has said it is not a new scam. It has been happening. It's only that now things are opening up. And I know you guys are making noise because you are cornered. You are cornered. You go, these are all this, you are doing it like jokes. Those are not jokes. Because look at what is happening. Today, just last week, cost of fuel went up. Kenyans have nowhere to run. In fact, I've just been watching a video of a press conference yesterday somewhere. Kenyans have even started wearing this white shirt saying, if politicians can't act, let them ship out. And I can tell you, we are playing with fire. There shall come a time when it shall not be nonsense. If you want to be president, tell us, how am I going to lower your taxes? How do I support DPP and DCI? If these ones are not working, let us do a proper description of a better one who can work for us. But corruption is a cancer in this country.
Wamatangi, finally, let's hear from you. We'll move on also to other matters.
Yes, Debarl, actually, I wanted to say, you see, every story must have an ending. And I think the ending to this, and because I'm speaking last, we should just conclude and tell Kenyans that all that glitters is not gold. And that the only good gold is the one that is unmined. That's because you see,
also Kenyans had a coinage for that. We remember with the Ngiritas, with the NYS,
Yes,
they said
yeah,
all
sure.
than Ngiritas also.
Because I mean, this story has become so long, and it is not about the common person. You've heard all the names mentioned. It's about the royal family, the Zandis and Jandals here, and Karen and Palacio homes. It is about 400 million. It is even the names being mentioned in the local scene are about the bosses, what have you, and senators and ministers, and I mean, it has nothing to do with the common man.
We're lost. Myself, I feel lost in this particular story. Where are we? I mean, what is it?
That's what I'm saying, Debarl.
Is it a genuine, transaction from DR Congo, UAE, and passing through Kenya?
Debarl, that's what I'm saying. This whole thing is diversionary. Look at the time when we are discussing about this thing. We are discussing about this thing and letting it occupy our entire talk and entire national cycle. When a month from now, we'll be looking at the budget and passing the budget. When right now, we are having a major issue between the passing of the division of revenue.
But critically,
when we have big stories about corruption, Debarl, when we have major issues about service delivery to this country, right now, when we are in this particular season, talking every day, for example, in Parliament, grilling governors who each one of them have come with bizarre budget lines about monies that have gone wherever, and talking about losses of billions of shillings. And then here we are occupied talking about the royal family in Dubai and gold locked somewhere in the airport. And if you look at the story here, Debarl, like I said earlier, this has nothing to do with us. I mean, us common people. These fellows mentioned here, like this fellow called Jared, it's even in the record here. 2 years ago, he was apprehended for another scam of fake gold worth 300 million. Just the other day, remember, we had this break-in by DCI officers, I think, in one of the vaults in Barclays Bank, and it was fake gold that was in there. Remember the arrest of those foreigners in Langata the other time about fake gold. And all these fellows are fellows who are partying in big places and doing big things. Can we rest this thing and say, as I've said, now we know, and Kenyans must know that as you have well summarized it, unless you are Angirita, all that glitters is not good. And then now we close it, and then we can go into some more fresh and useful discussion for the day. And for that matter, bring up the subject and start with me. Because I've not contributed.
Because you've not contributed. But before we actually rest it, you say that, but the credibility of the leaders that we have, and especially if they enroll in these scams as well, what does it really tell about this particular nation? And I want us just to rest on it, and I'd ask that particular question. What does it portend then for Wetangula as a leader? Is he putting now his political career also on a chopping block as well? Just looking back from the archives of the cartoonist, we had this particular cartoon as well. You remember the BAT? and the Tokyo scandal as well. And he's depicted here saying, make it quick and paperless. I need to go and sue the government over corruption. And you can see he has been, the issue is, he has been dragged along so many scandals as well. You can see the Tokyo scandal, Tripoli there, the BAT scandal as well. Now we have this particular scam, which is still under investigation. We do not know how he's actually involved in this. But I want to hear, maybe he can close. Yeah, maybe Eseli can close in this.
Okay.
You as a leader, and you say you're not the spokesperson of Wetangula, but he is. How can you uncouple your leader from the party who's been dragged through the mire?
I think one thing, it's very convenient to hit at Wetangula because of political reasons, that it appears that if anybody wants to capture Western, they have to get rid of Wetangula. And then those things that are in that cartoon, on the issue of the Tokyo embassy matter, I was in Parliament at that time. Indeed, that one was what I would call malice of the highest order, because even there was a special audit report by the Auditor General, which was supposed to be, by the law, by the Constitution, an audit report should be tabled in Parliament within 7 days after the minister receives it. But at that time, the then Minister of Finance failed to table that special audit report, which clearly showed that the Tokyo whatever story was just a story.
But the reason why it was not really tabled is, according to you, is that money was exchanged on this.
No, I'm saying
that is on the ground, that money, some 200 million shillings were actually exchanged.
The special audit report was not tabled. And that definitely shows that somebody was trying to hit at Wetangula. Then the issue of the tobacco matter, that one, he has even sued the BBC, who failed to even put in a defense, and we are expecting he's expecting some good payment from that. Anyway, that said and done, what I would say in this current situation is, I think it would be wrong at the moment to talk about his political career before we actually get to the bottom of this matter. Because until we get to the bottom of this matter, so that we know who is responsible for what, then that's when you can talk about his political career.
Right.
Otherwise, for now, I would still insist that let's wait for the full investigation to actually tell us who did what. And I would suggest that it is wrong at the moment for somebody to go to Bungoma and celebrate about it and think that now they have got Wetangula out of their way. They have not. And they will still meet the same resistance from the people, because you cannot come to our backyard and sort of accuse our own of all sorts of things when you don't have proof. So I think that one will have to be very clear. So as far as his political career is concerned, let the investigations come out. What they'll come up with is what will determine what his future will be.
Jacob seems to be having something on that before you close.
Yeah, Debarl, I love Eseli. Eseli he means well for Kenya. Those things of our own, please, unless you have been a hypocrite, you must encourage Moses Wetangula to go and to tell Kenyans his story. Remember, Moses Wetangula was even in the top team of NASA campaign in the last, just a year ago. He could have been the government. In Austria today, the Prime Minister is stepping down just because he was captured on talking to some Russian woman about government contracting. They are going to hold an election, Austria. We cannot live, we are not living in another world. Wrong is wrong and right is right. And Debarl, we are not saints, but we are in a discourse. That's why we wake up every morning to come here to try to guide this country. Which way? It is true, it is wrong for William to enjoy, because he is actually proving Eseli's point that Kenya is one large criminal enterprise, which means all of us, we are criminals in that, in the sense of Eseli's say. But we must guide this country which way forward.
Thank you. Right. Let's just also hear from our viewers as well. We have this is Dr. Carter, Peters Smith, that difficult name. Politicians cannot fix Kenya. He says history has shown they are not visionary and decisive enough. It's for Wananchi to fix this country at the ballot, especially the youth. Also, we have Kai Kalubusia, saying the fact of the matter, my Senator Wetangula has been linked to several international scandals. Just to mention a few, he has been linked to international tobacco scandal, Tokyo scandal, and now Dubai gold scandal. He should clear his name. And this is what he says. We have Kiprono, also Abraham Arab Kogo, saying DPP is biased and partisan. Right, it's just disconnected there. DPP is biased and partisan. You can't publicize one scam and gag people on the other. I now feel like fight against corruption was all about Ruto and his friends. Right, this is from Kiprono. We have also Philip, or Dikusha, I should say. He's saying, goodness, Senator Kimano Matangi didn't deem it his responsibility to report on the scammers who then went and scammed his relative. Talk of fence sitters and the three monkeys fable, see nothing, hear nothing, do nothing. This is what Dikushi is saying here. Also, Dr. Jen Omwenga says, she says, call the scam by its name and save the thousands of Kenyans living in UAE. Be sure Kenyans are watching. Also, we have Limo Kibet Semol saying, it's now obvious that the Mutuwetu thing is killing our country. It is Wetangula who gave us the names of the President Raila Odinga and Matiang'i. How this has been twisted to look like Ruto is after his people is very interesting. And it goes on and on. We shall be reading some of them much later in the course of the program. But now we want also to see what is on the front page of the Daily Nation briefly, just to discuss these issues of teachers as well. Teachers reject NEMI's student number system, but we've seen this particular interesting discourse as far as also the CBC is concerned and the toying and throwing over it that is between the Cabinet Secretary of Education, that is George Magoha, and also Wilson Sossion. Let's just listen in.
If you want war with us, we are prepared to go the full length, if you are ready.
Because we spend too much time thinking about nothing, talking about nothing.
If we get it wrong, we shall damage millions and millions of children for many years to come. And no reform or review anywhere in the world can succeed if teachers are not on board. There is no more professionalism in CBC. There is 100% and above politics in CBC.
And this is what is on also the front page of the Standard this morning, as well as the Daily Nation. The big debate on new school learning system, key positions given here, not positions, or not position. First, there was no public participation, but we have a rejoinder here from the ministry saying we have evidence to show we engaged all the stakeholders, including NAT. 2 days or 2-day training not sufficient for teachers. This is what NAT's position is. Teachers, it says, all over the world are not trained to deliver a specific curriculum. The short training we are doing are enough. This is a rejoinder from the ministry. Also, third, we should adopt outcome-based education, not competency-based curriculum. And we have also OBE and CBC are the same. They focus on competencies and skills. Also, no policy. This is NAT's position. Policy launched last week, according to Magoha, with no sessional paper with Parliament. No needs assessment done. We have needs assessment done in 2009. This is in the Standard today. And also you can see the Daily Nation as well. Teachers reject NEMI's student number system. The government project to capture the details of every student has run into strong headwinds because of miscapitation funds. This is also on the front page of the Daily Nation. What does it portend then for the academia in this country? Let's just begin with you, Aaron Cheriot, on this particular development. First of all, this part that is ongoing, it seems there's a frosty relationship between now the ministry and NAT.
Well, Debarl, this is a very important issue, which is unfortunate if we appear to be glossing over. And I hope we can get time as a country to better understand. Let me confess something, Debarl. You know, on this one, this particular issue of CBC versus the current OBE curriculum, apart from what I know to be the fundamental difference between OBE and CBC, I cannot tell you beyond it what it is that Kenya is trying to do. Because I have followed the launches that have been done at KICC and, you know, Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, but that is where it ends. And I can bet many of my, the three other colleagues that are with me on this panel who sit with me in Parliament, whether they are actually aware of what the intent and what the final product will be for the children of Kenya, despite the fact that they sit in a very, they're in positions of leadership. And one of the things, because we had this discussion last week in Senate, that, and we have tasked our education committee to perhaps secure for us as a Senate a meeting with the Ministry of Education officials to perhaps take us through, help us understand, so that we may be able to filter. You know, Sosion is a good guy. I listen to him fight for the rights of the teachers. I have nothing but absolute respect for him. But also, there is a sense in which you get the feeling that he is just naturally born to oppose almost everything that government does. So you can't trust him 100% on some of these issues. And there are things that he is saying that makes sense when you listen to him. George Magoha doesn't help his cause, because when he appears before the media, he's breathing fire and saying, oh, I'll not stop at anything. I will bulldoze everyone that is on the way of this. I have no reverse gear, as if anyone has asked him to have a gear. That is not how to run public affairs, let alone the matters of education which affects almost every livelihood in this country. Therefore, I feel that there is still need for a better guided debate on this particular issue, so that you ask Kenyans, you know, as it is right now, Debarl, I can tell you the truth, that this issue has been reduced to whether you support Sosion or Magoha, which shouldn't be the case. Sosion and Magoha are not what we are discussing as a country. We are discussing to understand whether, as a nation, have we reached that tipping point where we are saying 844 has served its bit. It is now time for us to get a new curriculum for our children. And you know, all this goes out to support even the struggle that many of us have spoken about, that what happened to the public education sector. When I went to school, and I want to believe it's the case with the rest of the panels because I'm the youngest on the panel, private education wasn't something that many people were rushing to. Public education sector was working. You would go to a public primary school, go to a public secondary school, and still come out okay, be able to be a proper citizen and do great things in the world. That is not the case anymore. The only people who are taking their kids to public primary schools are those who cannot afford private education. And therefore, there is need for reform in the education sector. However, the way in which, one of the ways that are for sure, I feel, for example, some of the points that I agree with strongly when that Sosion is raising, is this issue of stakeholder participation. While Magoha says that, oh, we engage all the stakeholders, what about even the leaders? I can bet, I'm not so sure, if Eseli, for that matter, knows to the basic details of what the Ministry of Education are trying to do. If he hasn't been engaged, he's a leader. You expect him to go back to his constituents and give direction and say, oh, this particular initiative is good. There's just a certain attitude that has come into government which I completely do not agree with it. You saw it even with Huduma number, where when it was being launched, we were being told, oh, politicians, stay away, let the chiefs educate people on this particular issue. It's just a wrong attitude that has permeated into government, which I do not think is right. Leaders do not, you may like them, you may not like them, but for whatever they are worth, they have been elected by their people, and people see them as the ones they can trust because they have participated directly in their being into office. If you do not engage them on any government program, you will run into the kind of headwinds that Magoha is running into. So my opinion on this, the best thing will be at this particular point is an increased stakeholder participation in this particular issue, so that people are able to understand and know this decision, whether to proceed or not to proceed. What is it that we are choosing in between?
Maybe you can clarify for us, because here in the Standard they're asking, so that we can get it from you, no sessional paper, what was this, where is it? Policy launched last week, sessional paper with Parliament. The sessional paper that that is 5 there, is it with Parliament?
Maybe in the National Assembly.
From the National Assembly?
In Senate, I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
I don't know whether they mean it has been tabled in Parliament, but if they have debated it, I'm not aware.
It's not?
If it is, then it's still in the clerk's office.
Or in the committee.
In the conduit or with the committee.
With the committee, yeah. Oh, okay. Let's hear from Inea Molo.
Yeah, first, Debarl, let's create a distinction because the original story on page 4 of The Nation is about NEMIS.
Yes, yes.
And it's slightly different from what's on the cover of the Standard.
Yeah. We'll come to the NEMIS as well.
Yes, so to the extent that one is talking about NEMIS, I can confirm to you, because I've received numerous complaints from the schools in my constituency, that there's a big problem. There are many schools where tens of children have been excluded from that NEMIS registration, and as a result, they are being underfunded. So there's some real and legitimate complaint on that one. On the question of the new curriculum, I agree with Aaron on a number of things he has said. The first thing is, the kind of conversation we are having, both from the union and from the ministry is not helpful. That grandstanding is not helpful. We should have restrained and consultative language. It is important that when we are changing a curriculum, there should be a unity of purpose. This is one area where Jubilee, ODM, whether you are which one, should not matter. Because the most central pillar of this is the learner. Unfortunately, the learner is lost in this dispute. No one is really remembering about the child. I happen to have been in the first 844 lot, and I know what it means to be a guinea pig, as we were called then. It is extremely important that by the time we resolve to change a curriculum, we have ironed out any thorny issues, so that it is not opposed merely for the sake of opposing it, but it is not shoved down the throat of anyone merely by way of imposition. It is unfortunate, first, that in a sense, this whole process may have been hurried. Last year, I tried to engage in the depth of the new curriculum, and I went to great lengths, and I can tell you it's as challenging as anything goes. And it is the same concern that I've had a lot of teachers repeat. It is not necessarily that it is bad, but it is important that it is consultative, it is well understood. Secondly, it is clear from the National Assembly that the sessional paper has not been tabled in Parliament. It has not been discussed. If it's at the committee stage or if it's at the clerk's office, I do not know. But as the representative of the people of Rarieda, I have not had the opportunity to engage with it. There are two things that are very important that we must remember. We might hate politicians, as in the previous, somebody says we can't trust politicians. And then they said, we'll only sort them out at the ballot. I mean, the irony is, once you go to the ballot, whoever you liked is a politician anyway. But whether you like the politicians or not, for now, they are the representatives of the people. And under Article 94(2), it says, Parliament manifests the diversity of the nation and represents the will of the people. And so the question is, in this debate, where does the will of the people lie? We have not had the opportunity to examine it, to indicate the wishes of our own constituents, and therefore the will of the people does not lie anywhere. The second one is in Article 10(2), public participation. It is extremely important that there is public participation, and public participation is not just for the union. Public participation is for the media, it is for the mamamboga, it is for everyone, so that you need to be given that opportunity. If you choose not to participate, it is different. I am not quite sure that we had the kind of robust public participation on this matter. For example, like the one we had prior to enactment of the previous constitution. I had the opportunity to be in the committee of experts, and we went out of our way. The draft constitution alone, we printed 10 million copies, both in Swahili and in English. And we went everywhere educating the people. Now, you might not require that level, but at least you require a significant level so that by the time we come to this debate, you know what is right and what is wrong. Right now, the debate is at the level of the union and the minister. 99.9% of Kenyans don't know what this debate is about. They have children, they are just waiting to see what direction the children will take. That's not the way it ought to be.
But we've been toing and froing on this, Dr. Otiende, even for a long time. We saw, even the beginning of the year, we had then the Cabinet Secretary of Education, Amina Mohammed, saying we'll not go full steam ahead and launch this particular CBC. Then after a few weeks again, there was a change of tone. We don't know if there was arm twisting
and,
or a shoehorning on this.
And some people have suggested that's why she may have been transferred from the education docket. But you see, that is the problem. The problem has been, the debate has been when to launch it, not how to make people understand it. And I think that is the problem.
Right. Eseli, we'll come to Jacob.
The issue of education in Kenya and actually keeping on experimenting with the educational system in Kenya has historical perspectives. If you look at it right from the colonial time, you'll find that they've kept on changing the education system in Kenya. Everybody experiments with it. To the point, like when I was in high school, they came up with something called new maths. So we were guinea pigs for new maths, which was a very interesting way of looking at mathematics, but was rather narrow. But they allowed it to happen to Kenyan children. So we've kept on like that without really realizing what we are doing, what effect it will have. Then when you get such a shift in policy, a monumental shift like this in the education system, you need to midwife it very carefully. The way Otiende Amolo has said, you need to midwife it very carefully. Otherwise, if it fails, you'll have damaged so many children's future. But in our case, I think this impasse between Matiang'i, between Magoha and Sossion is not good. I think both of them need to calm down and realize that it doesn't have to be a situation of my way or the highway, because I know Magoha tends to be a bit abrasive, and actually when we vetted him, we alerted him to that and told him he'll have to be more accommodative if he's going to serve the public very well. It's not a situation of going with whips and saying it's my way or the highway, and then Sossion should come out clearly with what are the exact things that he feels should be looked at. Because unfortunately, I keep on saying this, we are under the Jubilee administration, which has difficulties in implementing any policy. Whenever they get a policy and they want to implement it, they always have difficulties. They don't seem to have a clear way of doing things. So given that kind of political situation, then the people charged with delivering this must be very careful, because now we are dealing with Kenyan children and they should be able to do it properly. Then finally, on this NEMIS issue, I think we have a problem in Kenya whenever it comes to IT, implementation of IT-based programs. Right from the IFMIS now to NEMIS, there's Huduma number, and so on and so forth. We have a serious problem with implementing IT programs. And I think it's because we've never internalized this saying that where computers are concerned, garbage in, garbage out. So sometimes we feed this thing with a lot of garbage, then we get garbage out. That to the extent that now there are youngsters in school who are not getting their capitation because somewhere where the birth certificates are manufactured, they are duplicating numbers, which should not happen. So until we clean up our things and actually learn that when you are implementing IT sort of programs, you must be very meticulous and feed in the right information.
Let's hear from Jacob, even as we're winding up as well. And even Sossion has been very fickle on this as well. Before, I think last year, he was actually rooting for this particular CBC. And now he's changed tone this year again. We saw him on television saying now we're in support of the curriculum-based competencies. But now, a change of tone again.
Debarl, Otiende has talked of Article 94 of our Constitution. He spoke about 2. But the most relevant is 5. It says no person other than Parliament has powers to make law. That is what is happening. Magoha is making law. Sossion is trying to make law outside Parliament. But that was meant for Parliament to be the spokesperson or the spokespeople of the people. Now, it is interesting to listen to parliamentarians lament on public TV. You know, you don't need a sessional paper. This is an issue which Otiende, Eseli, the Senate I saw trying to talk about it, but they were just criticizing Magoha. This is an issue that you can just do a motion. That is public participation. These are people who are the representatives of the people. No member of Parliament, particularly this Sossion, he was nominated for such things. I thought that is what the the system of NASA had in nominating him. He is, if I was in the teachers' organization, I would kick him out of the union. Because why can't he draft a small motion? I am here saying now, if he is incapable, have tea with me at 10 o'clock, I'll draft a motion for you.
Thank you.
Go and interrogate this matter, guide the people. We cannot give them that power.
Thank you.
Debarl, just one second, because it is important. Magoha fixed the university. Magoha fixed the examination council. Magoha, as far as I know, is the only one who can fix this system. And I think he needs support. Because this is a rotten system. We are not educating our kids. Magoha must do it.
Right, thank you. Matangi, finally.
Yes, Debarl. You know, the education system in Kenya right now, and I think that is truly what's on Kenyans' minds when we hear this debate. You know, our education sector has been so synonymous with the conflict that it is no longer possible to know, you know, when there is merit in a discussion and when there isn't. If you remember, the struggles we've had between NAT and the ministry, you know, from salaries to when they're contesting whether the association should be kicked out. I mean, it has been a continuous struggle. And the question I believe, on Kenyans' minds right now, and I think you can understand that from the mood you see prevailing, because this discussion, if you follow it, largely it is between, as my colleagues have said, between the two individuals, and also amongst probably the leadership, that's the heads and so on. But if you listen to the Mwananchi, the participation of the Mwananchi, the input from Mwananchi is very minimal. Largely because what we have been trained to understand between these two when there's an engagement, it is conflict. And then you would ask yourself a fundamental question, Debarl. Even this old system itself, there will be, even yourself now, if you are told, tell us what are the values of this 844 system, what do you know about it? I mean, it has been there for so many years, but very few people can tell you that these are the critical benefits of this system. I mean, so when you compare it with this new system, so what are the, I mean, people just simply don't know. That's the reality. Mm-hmm. And I think the admission by the head teachers in that discussion that they had, that they would be taking this new system in a continuous learning basis is real evidence that public participation required to have happened. In summary, I would be saying really, when Magoha was proposed to take over the ministry, there was a lot of anticipation, a lot of positive expectance that he was going to come and change things in that ministry. It would be good if he would take that with a lot of caution.
Thank you.
And then, of course, be more accommodative, understand that education is so important. Let me finalize by saying this, Debarl. It has been known and it is even evident. And remember the other day, none other than Magoha himself was declaring that they are going to strike out a lot of degree programs in our university curricula. That tells you that the reality and the argument that our education system is not reality-based. It does not produce people or our young people, when they get out of it, who are prepared for the actual and real scenario in the job market or in the real world.
Right, thank you.
And I believe this whole discussion must end up at, are we producing with either system candidates or young people who are ready to be assimilated directly in the economy that we have, in the job market that we have. Thank you. I think that should be the discussion.
All right, my director, Mark, just indulge you one or two tweets as we're winding up. We have Jimmy Gakio saying, has the gem finest, Jacob Midio, defected to Amani National Congress? I've seen him several times in the Amani Tanga Congress Brigade of late. Is there anything in the office? Yeah, those are just tweets. You'll comment next week.
Independent.
You will comment next week.
Remember, also, I was kicked out of ODM.
Thank you. We have also youngest Kenyan on Twitter saying Magoha wants to bulldoze everything in the education sector. He'll fail terribly if he continues. Also, we have Kaikai Kulabusi, I should say. Professor Magoha is the biggest scam in education sector. He says, look at our universities. We're literally in a deathbed. We can't now pay salaries, our loans, deductions are not being remitted, and as a result, we are all listed by CRB. And of course, this is a professor at the university. And finally, we have Hustler Nation saying that someone please give hope to our sons and daughters. Someone please give hope that our sons and daughters have a future in this country. Someone please give me hope that indeed one day this country will one day change for the better. Are we this rotten to the core? That's the future. That the future is totally bleak. This is Hustler Nation asking. And we'll leave it at that. I want to thank our panelists for coming through this morning as well for that cogent discussion, and also you getting to drive the show with us on the social media as well. You've been watching People and Politics. Living with us is up next.